Welcome, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are watching this. Most of you, if not all of you, are watching this as a recording due to some technical difficulties yesterday. Here at TeamCare, we really value a work life balance, and Colin had to do some networking. May or may not have been on a golf course. Wi Fi was terrible, but we're back here and we're about to drop so much value on you that I hope you're sitting down as you're watching this. The theme of today's webinar, Masterclass, is treatment planning and checkout excellence. Here at TeamCare, we wake up every day and we are obsessed about three things. And as a result, we do those three things really, really well. We help practices grow hygiene, we help practices grow their bottom line, and we help practices build their reputation.
And we feel like those are the most critical forces that influence the growth and success of a practice. And not just in the numbers, although the numbers represent what is the outcomes. But I think the pathway to get there is through the behavior change, the culture shift in your practice. It's still all about, despite all the automation, all the AI, all the things out there that technology is great for, so many things still rely on the human interactions and those direct experiences that you have, that your team members have with patients. That's what changes everything. It's the little things, the little words. And in the spirit of team care, we are in the business of giving credit where credit is due and positioning workflows that capture those activities and give attribution back to staff members so that we can measure them, manage them, and reward them when their results are great. And so we've narrowed our focus. The way that we like to present ourselves is within those three categories of fill the schedule, grow the bottom line, and build your online reputation. And we have some really great tools to support that enable your staff members to jump on that bandwagon and be aligned with your growth as a practice. Today, we're going to talk about treatment plans. And treatment plans mostly fall in this category of growing the bottom line. And for a lot of practice owners out there, growing the bottom line might be something independent. We deal with a lot of practices, about 50-50, that some of them are saying, hey, I'm very busy. My schedule is full. That's not my problem. I just want to do more with what I have. I want to take all the patients I know are coming through my office, and I want to be better at maximizing the output on that. I want to be produce more with what I have and collect more with what I have. And so I think our treatment plan related things are really kind of important in that workflow. And so we're going to go through, Kyle calls this a master class today. I've been working within this treatment plan world for years, 7 or 8 as a practice owner with my wife's practice, and then transitioning that into of the formal tool and the chairside technology that we have today. So I'll get this started. I guess I'll mention that some of the first things that were the foundation of this. And I imagine that there's a lot of practice owners out there that have come from a very similar place where the PMS systems, the Dentrixes, the Open Dentals, the EagleSofts, they have treatment plan modules. And the problem is there's several problems. One of the core problems is that they don't track anything related to case acceptance. There's no metrics, there's no tools within there to measure and manage the process of, I went into this patient today and I presented this plan. The patient said yes, or the patient said no. And the reason they said yes, the reason they said no, who of my team members were involved in that treatment plan, and therefore give me some idea about what's going on in that world. And so a lot of offices, practice managers, owners have understood the importance of that. We would call that something about the sales funnel in a business world. And the sales funnel in a dental office is about, if I bring in, let's just call it 200 patients. If I see 200 patients in my schedule, I do exams on all of those two patients. That was kind of the top of the funnel. That was this total population of patients that I started with. And as we move those patients through the sales funnel, I'll come out the other end of it with some amount of production and collection, which represents some success ratio of how well I move those patients from a routine visit into some form of production. And so offices, businesses, everyone's trying to maximize their sales funnel and make sure that they're optimally profitable with those patients. And so when we look at the sales funnel, we start to think about, okay, if we start with 200 patients, the first breakdown of the sales funnel in the dental office is to what level did we present treatment to people? And what we see in common is about 50%. And so those 200 patients that we started with, some of those patients are going to be healthy, right? They don't need a treatment plan. And it's not our mission to make people more aggressive diagnosers and tell people they don't want. It's just to understand what the reality is here. And so out of those 200 patients that we see as coming in, we're going to estimate that approximately 50% of them are healthy and that we're going to move forward into a treatment plan presentation with 50% of them. And so right off the bat, we take down the 200 patients to 100 patients that are actually going to be presented something. We're going to diagnose and give them a presentation about some form of treatment. So the next breakdown of the sales funnel is okay, if we presented treatment plans to 100 patients, how many of them are going to say yes to us versus how many say no? And the number that we see as a common benchmark there is about 80%. And so the 100 patients that we presented to, about 80% of those patients are going to move forward with treatment. And so those are the patients that scheduled appointments. And then from then forward, it's a matter of measuring and tracking. Well, how much do we complete? I presented 5,000, and they scheduled their appointment, and then it's kind of a longer cycle to see how much completion we can get out of those treatment plans. So I'm going to start to share my screen here and show you how we manage this process. But I wanted to establish that as the fundamental foundation of this. And more importantly, we look at this on an individual staff member level. And that's really important. Every single person, every single provider in your office, and we look at that as doctors, hygienists, and front desk treatment coordinators. This is not just a global metric that people can just see for their office and take it and run with. It's really important to make sure that this is individually isolated into single staff members, that every single person has their metrics about how well the patients that they interacted with, how well are those opportunities being converted? How well is their personal sales funnel performing? And that's important because it's our goal to maximize each person's. And so if you have an office with one doctor, with five doctors, not all doctors are created equal there. And it's important from a management perspective to understand how well each doctor is doing, or each hygienist, or each front desk treatment coordinator, so that they can be coached and so that they can be kind of held accountable and responsible to their metrics. And as a final kind of stepping stone to that, it's like optionally, those people should be rewarded if they do a great job and they can be incentivized to do a better job and maximize their own performance. That's where TeamCare really comes in. So I'm going to do some screen sharing right now and show you how this process works. That was sort of the why on why do we do this, and the reason is because it's really important for business. It's really important for us to be able to understand how well we're converting patients into production. And that's really the biggest cost in dentistry, is that, patients walk out the door and don't schedule. We have all these opportunities coming through the office, and to what extent can we manage them and measure them and reward them makes the difference. So here we are. This is actually our real-time office. I'm going to switch over into a demo office. But we'll take a quick peek at this. What you can see is we have these day sheet flows, and our staff is constantly tracking themselves. And you can see as this day is going on, I expect us to have a nice big Saturday here. We're believers in prime time. This is our hygiene schedule for the day. We have lots of exam opportunities, and we're going to have an awesome day here, treatment planning. And what our staff is doing here is they're using our checkouts tool on this web browser, and as patients are coming through the office, they're using this checkout flow. You can see the assignment that's happening here. This is Rose right here, one of the front desk treatment coordinators. She's handling this patient. Actually, hold on. We have a nice tool here that is gonna make sure that we anonymize things. Let me refresh this. Okay. So here we go. We have Rose, and Rose is working with this patient who will remain nameless. And what Rose is doing is she's doing these checkout tasks. And as she does those checkout tasks, and I'll show you them in a second, all of the credit and the successes and the outcomes are being attributed to this team. Okay. And so this patient came in the office and they worked with Chelsea and they worked with Dr. Fano and they worked with Rose. And if this patient gets presented treatment, all of those outcomes are going to be dropped into the stat lines of these staff members. And as we kind of come out the other side with this, and we look at our leaderboards, we're going to see those exact sales funnel metrics that are happening on an individual basis for every single doctor. And so when we look at this treatment plans area, we start to look at how much dollars wise was presented for each doctor, how often they presented, how often they scheduled, and what their average treatment plan was. And so when we look at these, we start to compare peer to peer, and this is how a lot of ways we start to find what reasonable benchmarks are for offices. And so if you looked at this 45, 26, 58, you start to see these hover around that benchmark of about 50%. About 50% of the patients coming into our office receive a treatment plan. And then how often are they scheduling? And we can look at maybe a full month, last month, to take a look at some bigger data. How often they present, how often they're scheduling. We like to see this around 50%, and we like to see this around 80%, and that's how we track. And we can see all the detail behind this. You can see how many per presented, accepted. We can look at all of the accepted ones, what did they are. We can drill down to really anything in here. So this is great. I'll go back into the nuts and bolts of handling this, but I want to kind of show you the outcome of this because, like I said at the starting point, the PMS systems, I think we can all agree out there, they do a horrible job of giving us any kind of metrics about how our team is performing and how patients are responding to case presentation and case acceptance. And if anyone's ever attempted to solve that problem by themselves and say, okay, well, I accept that the PMS is poor at this and they're not going to get better, most people go into a spreadsheet world and they start to create a spreadsheet where you have rows and columns and you tell your staff, you know what, we need to track this. We need to understand what's going on and measure this and give accountability and all these things that are important to running a team. And so the spreadsheet has a row for every single patient, every single treatment plan, and lots of different things: their name, how much they presented, when did they come in, when did they schedule. And what I'm going to show you is actually that's where TeamCare started. We were doing those things in our very own office, building spreadsheets, trying to run stats. And what happened was it fell apart. It wasn't. It was hard. It was a lot of double entry. It was a lot of work to just get that information. And then you had to run reports on it to understand what's going on and talk about that with your team. And so where we've evolved is to have this really tightly integrated checkout process that lives on top of the PMS and eliminates almost all of any kind of double entry. And furthermore, we take that onto our iPad app and we allow these treatment plans to go into the room, chairside, tap to pay. It's super cool. So I'm going to start showing you how this works one step at a time. And it starts with this checkouts area of the app. And so in this app, we see that we already have patients populating from the PMS. Okay. And I'm on my demo account. These are live patients that were in our office today. And this is what our staff was doing on our real live account. What they'll do is if we already know from the PMS a lot of information. And so this eliminates the redundancies of any kind of double entry. We know this was Dr. Fano. We know this was a hygienist from our open dental system. We know it was this patient. We know they were here on this date and time. And once we click this claim checkout, it's going to fill in the blank with the front desk. And so immediately you see that my name is populated here and that I'm taking credit from the front desk side of the rest of this information that the PMS doesn't give us. When I go in here, I have two tasks. One of them is to make sure that that the patient has a future hygiene appointment. And we do. This is a verification step. I hear lots of offices say, "Oh, we pre-appoint everyone." This forces this. This makes sure retention and your hygiene stays high and no one slips through the cracks. And so this is a found appointment, and we verify that this happened, and then I can take credit for that. And that's why my name goes here, and we get credit for pre-appointment. The second thing is establishing this treatment plan. And so once we're here, we already see that there's treatments here. And so I'm going to present this core buildup crown on tooth number 4 for this patient. We'll simply write in from the PMS what their patient responsibility is. Let's call it 850 in this example. And let's just submit this treatment plan. So as this treatment plan gets submitted, we have an alternate version of the treatment plan that we've crafted at TeamCare. And so we've taken out a lot of things from the PMS and we've focused them into something that's more simple and more patient friendly to understand. And we can customize this. A lot of people want to customize treatment plans, and I'll show you how to do that. So at the start, we have simple, patient friendly naming conventions here. It's gonna be just simplified. We don't see codes. We don't see verbose descriptions. We just see a simple naming convention that the patient can understand and clear visibility into what that total amount is. We've consolidated all of the traditional line items that you see in a treatment plan, and we feel this is all just friction points for the patient. They go through every line item, they see something with like porcelain, tooth colored filling, it's redundant, it repeats. We feel like this is a really big win for patient simplicity. It's easier for them to say yes by having a simple, easy to understand presentation about their treatment. It lists their total amount and then it breaks down what their patient responsibility is. Okay. I'm going to come back and I'm going to flip back over to our editing ability. And I'm going to show you one preference here that personally I like. You can optionally turn off insurance estimates on a per treatment plan basis. And when we view this again, we notice that now it's even more simplified. Okay. It's just showing the patient the treatment that they need and how much they are responsible for. This is their patient amount. So you can choose how your office wants to do it. Either way, you can expand out the detail about the split between patient and insurance, or you can leave it simple and just one line item, simple. This is what you owe, go forward. The second thing that's really critical in here is our treatment plans show ways to pay. Okay. What payment options do I have here? Okay. When you come in and you do an exam to a patient, this presents this total amount the patient is going to owe. And maybe not every patient is going to be willing to pay this amount in full, right? There's lots of reasons that people might not have $875 laying around, and they might need a way to just break it down, right? And so one of our big goals related to this is that we want to make sure that patients reserve appointments with some money down. Okay. And we want to make sure that they have options to pay and that we're working with them to make finances easier, right? And so I'm going to go back again and I'm going to change some of these options. One of the things that we really like at Noble Dentistry is to force a deposit. And so there's different ways to do it. We like to do this 25% down, okay, where we're going to take the total treatment plan and 25% of it is what the patient is going to owe. And they have to pay that in order to move forward with scheduling their treatment plan. Okay, so some money has to go down. And the way that this looks on this treatment plan, this PDF version that we allow the patient to see, is that this is now a line item here. Okay, and that they can pay a deposit amount and they can pay this at the next appointment. So we really like this. Now, I'm going to shift this over and give me a sec here. What I'm really excited to show you guys is that, hold on. Sorry, I think I might have stopped sharing there for a little bit. Um, what I'm really excited to show you guys is how we take our treatment plans and we bring them onto the iPad. Okay. And we take this chair side. And so I'm going to show you what this looks like with taking the treatment plan I just created for the patient and then bringing it into the iPad so that we can take it into the room with the patient and do it chairside. So give me one sec and I'm going to pull up my iPad screen and share that with you. This is a preview of what this looks like. We see on the screen that, okay, I'm going to share my different screen. Okay, here I go. Okay, so we're on our iPad here, and there's different ways to go. We can go to checkouts, which is where I am right now. And this is the first patient that I was working with. And now, when I pick up my iPad, I already have this treatment plan right here. And one of the things that we can do here is we can bring this into the room. We have this on the iPad and we can sign document. And so when I sign this document, this will record to your PMS system. It'll put it right in the doc center, which is super cool. And as the patient signs this, then they're prompted with, how would you like to pay? Okay. And what we like to see is that you have to choose one of these. Okay. This is like really important. Um, we find that when patients put skin in the game, when they're forced to pay money before they reserve time, then we have a much higher success rate with filled appointments. Okay. If patients don't have to pay, then they can easily cancel. And so in most any other industries like airlines, if you want to reserve a seat for yourself at a given time, at a given place, you have to pay. And airlines make you pay the full ticket price in advance, of course. I think every patient would be a little bit assaulted if they did that, but it's like we have to be fair to the business and we have to make sure that there's an equal kind of level of commitment. And commitment is not just saying, "Hey, yeah, yeah, I'll be there. Trust me, I'm a good guy." Put your money where your mouth is as a patient, and you have to put a card down. And so we have our iPad app here. We go into the room with the patient. We show them the treatment plan that we just generated. We hand them this iPad. They have to confirm consent on the treatment plan, and then immediately they get prompted to choose a payment option. Okay, obviously payment in full is one. They have a payment plan. They can pay this today, or at a minimum, 25% down. We think that's super reasonable. We encourage all offices to do this. But if you notice, you can't go forward with this unless you choose one option. And that's really where we think there's gold here. It's long been established in the dental industry that we want patients to do this, but treatment coordinators sometimes don't do it. They don't offer different payment options. They don't, allow people to allow people to walk out the door without doing this. And so when we do this deposit, we then move into our reader. I don't have a reader connected right now. If I did, we would simply move into the tap to pay. And you could just tap your card on this. We have the readers and like it's done and it directly posts into your PMS. You can see this signed treatment plan right here. You can see that I was the treatment coordinator. This workflow is like super smooth and we feel like it's changing the world, changing the dental world. This doesn't exist. This flow that treatment coordinators can pick up an iPad, walk into a room, and present a beautiful treatment plan that is, signed with their finger, tap to pay with their iPhone, with their credit card, whatever, and enforcing payment options and down payments and just walking out done. And so we're super excited about this. We put so much of our development team resources behind this. It's getting better and stronger and more streamlined and more automated and more incentivized every day. And so, for anyone out there that's listening, I can't encourage you high enough to just start using this. Um, like if you kind of if we polled the audience here and we said how many of you are at a minimum tracking case acceptance for your team members, I think a lot of people would sadly say that they're not. And as I showed you in the leaderboards and things like that, we have these workflows that do it for you. You don't need to build spreadsheets. You don't need to figure out all the double entry of patient name. We have these workflows that are directly tied to your PMS, and we just need your front desk to pick up the iPad and use it to present to a patient. And if you do that, you will have a world of analytics. You will totally understand each person's performance, your efficiency in your funnels from your hygienist, from your doctors, from your chart. You'll get down payments from all your patients that won't leave the office without putting skin in the game. These are all things that directly contribute to the bottom line. And once you get to that point, I promise you, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it as a manager. You're gonna want to even get more excited about doing some incentives. We have really cool stuff around same day treatment plans. We're tracking these things and we're awarding them. And once your staff members get into this flow and they start to see earnings opportunities that they can get a little bonus, 10, 20, $30, depending on the size of the treatment plan for offering and helping coordinate that same day treatment plan. We all know that these treatment plans are averaged $1,500, and it is a huge hack to be able to convert dead time in this patients and make your staff members enabled to fill those slots because it boosts their earnings for the day and they get paid out from TeamCare immediately. Like it's super cool stuff. It's taking the hourly pay model and it's supercharging it. It's giving your staff earnings opportunities to make more by performing on things that affect your bottom line in a way bigger place. So, um, I know we covered a lot today. We started with the foundation of why treatment plan case tracking is important. And then I started to show you how we present those informations on our leaderboards, how we collect the information, starting with the web, transitioning to the iPad. And we talked about some of the benefits about how we can track this for accountability, how the workflow is super simple, and how once we put this iPad in the patient's hands, we're forcing them to make down deposits, to put money on the appointments before they leave the office, so that we're greatly minimizing our cancellations and no shows. So these are the big value points. And encourage you guys to get enrolled in this. This is all part of your Team Care platforms out of the box. You can just go to this checkouts and start tracking your progress from team members. Invite your staff into this. We encourage you to invite all your staff members. Allow them to get credit, okay, and record performance against their profiles so that they populate in the leaderboard and pick up an iPad. If you have questions on how to set this up, we have an amazing knowledge based article. We have how to videos. And if you really need to, we can schedule you a training session with one of our coaches. But this concept, okay, this idea of tracking your sales performance, okay, how many exams did we have? How well did we convert them? Why did patients say yes? Why did patients say no? There's awesome reportings that come out daily, emails about this. If you're not engaged in this workflow, you just got to do it. It's going to change your office. It's going to change your team culture, the chemistry, the accountability, the awareness. Your numbers are going to go up immediately. And so I'm going to cut it off there for now. And we'll do more of these. And thanks everyone for listening. And start tracking your treatment plans. Go buy an iPad. Get using this. It's immediate success.